Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to remove some adapters from either your driver, fairway or hybrid or any other club really that will have an adapter on them. Using 3 different techniques for doing so. The first way is going to be the professional way of doing it, but there is another couple of ways that you can do it if you don't have all the tools and equipment, which maybe does come with a slight risk of damaging the shaft, but more times than not, if you've done it a few times and if you do it properly, it should be alright. All you need for the second 2 methods are a heat gun and some pliers or something similar to that, and maybe a vice as well will come in handy. What I have here is a PXG, a Callaway and a TaylorMade adapter, all with pretty expensive shafts, so ones that I definitely don't want to be damaging the material on when pulling them off. And the thing is, if they were on steel shafts it would be really easy, but with them on graphite, when the adapter, or even on the head if you've got like an iron shaft that's graphite, when it's stuck into the hosel or inside the adapter, the difference with graphite is that the coating that comes on graphite is actually quite fragile and quite sensitive. So if you have an adapter and you start trying to twist that, for example, the graphite can get stuck to the inside of the adapter quite easily and it will start peeling it away, and that will actually damage the fibers going all the way down the shaft, so you'll basically ruin the whole club if you're not careful. So the proper way of doing it is to pull it off in a straight line going that way rather than trying to twist it. And I'll just show you an example of what can happen if you don't do it properly when you're twisting it. Like I say, all the graphite just gets stuck to the inside and it just twists it off, and basically if you just carried on doing it, this is what happens. It just rips off completely in the end. So for the first way, like I say, this is the proper way of doing it in a shaft extractor, which these things cost about £300. So obviously if you're only wanting to do 1 or 2 clubs, it's probably not really worth investing in one. But using it in the shaft extractor, just going to heat it up as normal. Pretty much impossible to save the ferrule on something like this, so I'm just going to heat the ferrule off and just burn it and rip it off. Should mention as well, always make sure you've got some safety goggles or glasses or whatever you want to call them, just because when you're heating up the adapter, there is always a slight possibility that it might come firing off at you. Do my best not to scratch any of the shaft while I'm doing this. Now what you need to remember with Callaway adapters is that they do go down the shaft quite far, so like if you're putting another brand of adapter on, like TaylorMade, Ping, especially Cobra as well, they probably with the ferrule only go down to roughly there where the bottom of this Callaway one is almost. So there's going to be a bit of a mess showing underneath. A lot of the time it is only glue that, the ferrule's usually only stuck down with glue. Sometimes you can get away with it, but if the glue does stick to the shaft and it peels the graphite away, then it's going to leave a bit of a mess behind. There's not really much you can do about that other than maybe cutting down part of the tip, but you're going to change the actual performance of the shaft. But that's basically just something to keep in mind if you do have a Callaway adapter. Same with Titleist as well, really. They're probably just as big as Callaway ones. Basically I'm just going to give this a bit more heat and then I'm going to put it into the extractor. So like I say, with this method you're basically just pushing it off the end. That part just pushes the adapter off the end of the shaft just by tightening this bit. And there'll be a point where you can feel the glue unstick itself and it just like releases. Sometimes if you haven't heated it enough, you might find that the shaft will like start moving with the adapter. Even if you tighten it really tight in the vise, it still might move if it's not hot enough, so just give it a bit more heat, and you can even just twist it by hand when you do get near the end. Easy as that, and I wouldn't touch that for a while. I'm going to have a separate video on how to clean up the end and add a new adapter. Planning on doing a video for pretty much everything, so I'm not going to cover too much in the video other than trying to remove the adapter. But you can see how long that is. Like a lot of adapters won't stretch that far down, so just something that you need to think about before you do it. Right, now for this next method, this is just going to involve a pair of pliers, and this is the most risky one to do. It's also going to mean that you're not going to be able to save the adapter if you wanted to use it for something else. Instead of pliers you could probably use a vise as well. Basically we're just going to lock it in and then just try twisting it, which I know goes against what I just said at the start, but if you do it really carefully and really slowly you can get away with it. You just got to be quite patient with it and just make sure you don't rush it. So again, I'm just going to start off by giving it a good heat up. So I heated it there for a bit longer than I normally would. You do need to be careful you don't heat it too much, otherwise you can risk damaging the shaft. Ultimately, I'm just going to get a grip of it, like anywhere on the adapter that you can. You are going to leave a couple of marks, like I say. And I'm just going to try really slowly twisting it, and if I feel too much resistance there, then obviously I'm just going to stop. But if it feels quite easy, then I'm just going to carry on going and just see if the whole thing wants to twist out. That is definitely going to need a bit more heat. Let's try that again. Once you feel it starting to twist, you can just kind of pull it and twist it at the same time. And again, if there's too much resistance or it's struggling a bit, then just come away from it, either give it more heat or probably just leave it. There you go, that's actually done a pretty good job there. As you can see, the shaft is intact and it's still going to be in perfect condition once all that glue's been scraped away. Yep, perfectly fine. The adapter on the other hand, not so much. That has taken a bit of a beating there. That was actually a bit more difficult to get off than most of them usually are, doing it that way. But buying a new one of them probably costs about £10 if you ever needed to, whereas you're comparing that to like £300 on a shaft extractor. So it definitely will save you a few quid as long as you don't damage the shaft, obviously. And then the final way of removing an adapter is by using the screw in the end of it. Now it actually might work quite similar to what we just did with the pliers, only we're going to be pulling it instead of twisting it. It's not always the easiest doing this way, but if you wanted to save the ferrule, then this is probably the best way of doing it without a shaft extractor, or even, to be fair, with a shaft extractor, because doing it that way won't actually save the ferrule. So if you are really desperate to save that ferrule, then this is a good way that you can do it. So as usual, I'm just going to heat it up to start with. So obviously I tried heating it without getting too close to the ferrule. You can see it's slightly starting to melt there, but that's not a massive issue because you can always turn it down. So as you can see, it is coming out. I'm actually able to twist it out. It's not actually looking too bad, and I'm sure you could get that looking good again if you wanted to. The main thing is though that the adapter did come off in one piece without having to use a shaft extractor. So you could use that one again if you wanted to. And yeah, ultimately that's 3 different ways on how you can remove your shaft adapter. Stay tuned for more videos, like follow-up videos to this. I might have already posted them by the time you see this, so just check out my channel if you want to see like how to put the adapters on, how to prep the shafts. I'm going to have pretty much everything you can think of. Anything that I haven't done and you want me to cover, just let me know in the comments and I'll do a video on it. As usual, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.